Yeah, we just had a beautiful Easter season, great celebration,
Yes.
and attendance was also nice, especially on Sunday. But that kind of almost 200 people. But that brought to me kind of some surprise. Where I am coming from Czech Republic. The attendance and participation, faith participation of the congregation between Easter Sunday and Good Friday especially would be more balanced. Here it was almost like 1-4.
Yes.
4-1, or whichever way you want to look at it. It'll be more like 1-1, where I am coming from. And so, how is it in America, or or is it just specific for our congregation, or how would you see it?
I too was surprised at the very low attendance on Good Friday. It was a beautiful service that was planned. We had a full choir. We had four clergy, each with a very different but each compelling meditation on the first chapter of 1 Corinthians. And yet there were very, very few people in the congregation. And I have been trying to think about where that comes from. Is it a lack of piety? Is it have we not done our job of helping people understand the significance of Good Friday?
Yeah.
I mean, certainly for me, it is the most important holy day of the Christian year.
Yeah, that's where I'm coming from, really. It'll be, and that was over here in the United States, at least to some people, it is a holiday, free day.
Yes.
For instance, stock exchange is closed for
Yes.
Good Friday, for instance, and I think that there are other places where people simply don't go to school or to work, and
Yes.
so it is a time clearly dedicated to spiritual centering, and then seeing the lack of that opportunity is not taken makes me somehow wonder and sad. And I was also thinking about it from that perspective. Do you think that it is that people are fearful that we would present the dripping blood and these kind of things? That's not who we are.
No,
And I think it is quite well known that this church is not doing it in this pietistic, fundamentalistic manner, but at the same time we want to go down deep to the spiritual roots of holidays and touch the true message.
And the message for me on Good Friday is the message of the Incarnation. And it is certainly it is the extreme understanding of the Incarnation.
And with it coming the love of God,
Yes.
who is simply abstaining from punishment.
That's right.
Or something like that, but rather taking in, accepting the pain
Yes.
and suffering
Yes.
on behalf of those who are clearly unjustly inflicting it on Jesus.
Yes.
But, in love, rather taking it than being vindictive or
Yes.
punishing.
Yes.
And for I think it is the core biblical message when you think about
I agree. It is, and Jesus taking on the suffering of humanity. So sometimes I wonder if people are afraid of suffering, and I can understand that people are afraid of suffering, so they don't want to confront it. You know, it's easier to enjoy the brightness of Easter than the darkness of Good Friday.
But they cannot go without each other.
Indeed.
You know, and frankly, any kind of maneuver of avoidance or something like that is very short-sighted. You know, psychologically, spiritually, in life.
Yes.
It's always better to confront our demons or our fears.
Yes.
Than to try to avoid them, because then they are back there nailing and working on us, you know.
And none of us escape suffering. I mean, you know, suffering on an individual level. You know, we have marked the 50th anniversary of the death of Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes.
And so there's been a lot of commentary and thinking about his death, and also about his message. And one of the things that struck me was that in solidarity with people who suffer is its own kind of redemption, both personal and societal. And the lack of the depth of understanding of Martin Luther King, for me, is, you know how on his birthday on January 15th we have this day of service? One commentator said it wasn't Martin Luther King's idea to go out and paint houses and plant flowers. It was his idea to mobilize those who suffer and to change society. And that was the message and the intention, certainly, of God in Jesus, that we face the reality of suffering, whether it's the systems that we've created, poverty, criminal unjustness, and that's a message of Good Friday.
And alienation to the extremes.
Yes,
you know, being simply left alone to suffer.
Yes.
Abandoned and persecuted, really bitterly. And I just love the way you are pulling in the political themes also, because those are definitely present in the message of Good Friday as well.
Yes.
You know, that judicial murder, I constantly call it that way. Even within the Roman judicial system, it was unjust. Abuse of power.
Yes.
And pulling in, as we did on Good Friday, you know, all the similar strings from our society and how we see it being present in our world and activating us through it, you know. So seeing that suffering within the context and challenge that with that hope which will come on Easter. But that Easter without that is
vacant.
It's just a sugar covering or something like that, without any substance, without any cake inside. You know, icing without cake. And then it can actually make people, you know, unwell.
Yes. No,
and
that's true.
You know, and again, that spiritual wellness is coming, that it is taken the whole thing, and in its whole complexity. So, you know, we do not do those vigils here and other things, but this is really in its place. And I think that Good Friday should be taken seriously and as a major step within the spiritual life, within the message, and hopefully also, and I would see it as a major miracle of divine love, probably bigger than resurrection.
Yeah, no, I hear that, and I think that it does. The confronting the suffering of Jesus and the suffering of humanity means that, for me, that we have to be with people who are in suffering. So we are with our refugees. We are with trying to create a better criminal justice system and against capital punishment, and we are trying to create a new poor people's campaign, and which would really honor Martin Luther King Jr. And to walk aside, and then I think we will also receive the strength of those who suffer. And that is a redemptive moment, because it's not, there is strength in those who suffer.
And pastorally, I'll pull it, we painted that whole societal picture.
Yes.
But for me, I see it by visiting people in hospitals, in nursing homes, those who are struggling with serious illnesses right now in our congregation. And I think that that could be supportive and strengthening as well.
Yes.
And that's what I'm trying to do by visiting them. But at the same time, it'll be great to figure out some ways of showing them that there is a positive and strong message for them in their own struggles of everyday life as well.
Exactly.
You know, societal and individual as well.
Exactly.
You know,
I certainly found that in my work with people who are homeless, and listening to them, learning from them, and at the same time using whatever power is given to me as a privileged person to make their lives better. But certainly I have received more than I have given in that, with those folks.
Like we are receiving from Jesus 2,000 years later. And that is our invitation for all of you. Wherever you are, if the Easter is coming, consider taking Easter in its wholeness together and attend Good Friday service wherever you are, because that is the pinnacle of Easter message.
Amen.
Amen.